Welcome, everybody, to Jazzy 97.5, the Slow Jams. Just kidding. It's The Expendable Show, and I'm your host, The Expendable. So if you like my show, like, subscribe, and ding the bell. Helps the channel grow, and we're growing exponentially. And I appreciate that. I'm doing it organically. I'm not buying my views like a lot of podcasters do. I'm allowing it to organically do what it does. So I like it better that way. Because for one, if you buy your views, you can't keep up. There's so much going on so at least now I get to understand my audience and I get to interact with you guys in the chats, and I enjoy that. It's like pretty much my biggest motivation for doing my podcast is because I get to talk to my friends and you know, the people who watch my show in the chats. It's my favorite part. So let's get down to the some of my personal news that I'm going to share with everyone today. Hey Freddie. So the news outlet that I write for, hello Jessica, and Jessica already knows this because I've already talked. I spilled the beans to her. But there's other stuff I got to add to it. So I have been offered the opportunity to be, hi Linda, to be the White House chief correspondent for the Islamabad Telegraph. I have yet to decide how I'm going to do that. If I'm going to do that, I'm not real keen. I spoke to it with my dad about a week ago. And he thinks I'd be walking into a wolf's den. But you know what? I tend to end up in a wolf's den anyway. So I've yet to make up my mind, but I'm incredibly honored to have been asked to take on that assignment. And you never know. Maybe I'll just wake up tomorrow and go, well, I'm moving to Washington, D.C. But that is the other part of it. Like, I want to get as far away from snow as humanly possible. And it does snow in Washington. So it's like, I feel like I would be regressing in life, even though taking on that position would be it's like the apex of the journalism world. Only a very small percentage of people get the honor to be a chief White House correspondent. So I actually have started the procedure of the Secret Service clearance. And that's going good as far as I know. So I at least want to get on, to at least get cleared for the risk assessment and all that, which shouldn't be a problem. So that's something I'm looking at. Hey, Rick. So, but being that close to like Caroline Leavitt, she is becoming a legend in the press secretary corps. It would be awesome to like be able to ask Caroline Leavitt a question. Like, what color is your favorite Fruity Pebble? And make her answer that. It'd be like, what's his name? Guillermo. Like when Guillermo goes and asks questions at like NBA basketball games. And he asks LeBron, he's like, LeBron, what kind of salad do you like? He's waiting on a basketball question. He asks him about a salad. So I thought that's kind of funny. That's probably how I would do it too. So I've been offered that. I also am. I just finished negotiating my appearance fees for Russia Today, which is a news outlet that I have been wanting to get on, and I finally got noticed by them. So it'll be a spot kind of thing. So whenever they do have me on, I'll make sure and share my clips on my channel here. So that's exciting. Russia Today is the largest media outlet in Russia. So that would I might as well just be like Austin Powers and be like the international man of mystery. I'll just run around and be like, yeah, baby. Shall we shag now or shag later? Bonnie, you know what? Lucky for you, Rick has told me about your eventful day. I am very excited for you. No, I'm not getting Secret Service. I'm getting, you have to go through a process to become a chief White House correspondent. So there's a clearance that you have to go through to be able to be in that room. You can't just not they want you to think that you can just walk in and say, I'm press, let me in, but you can't. It doesn't work like that. I have to go through a bunch of steps just to get approved to be in there. And then once the Secret Service clears me, then I have to go through another process. That is an assessment from the actual press corps from Caroline Levitt's office. So there's several steps to getting into that position. Yeah, anytime, Rick, anytime I think Bobby Day should be police officer of the year nationally. So I'm glad you share those stories with me. Bonnie, you did a good job today. I'm proud of you. So let's go through our statistics. Gas prices went up on the national average. We're at $2.84. We're probably finally seeing the effects of the Venezuela situation take hold in our gas prices, because nothing happens overnight. It's always on a delay when it comes to the markets. So this is probably where that's coming from. I would assume that since now that things have kind of cooled down, that probably in a week we'll see that go back down. Hopefully, theoretically, it should. Mortgage rates, the national average, it did go. See, mortgage rates are iffy. They go up, they go down. They go up, they go down. But we're not seeing that significant drop. So I'm kind of waiting on that, and I don't know why this hasn't happened. Trump's approval rating is at 43.9. He's kind of hovering around this same number like the last few weeks. I mean, he's gradually been going up, but he took a 0.2% drop this week. So, and that probably has to do with the ICE stuff, I would imagine. Let me check the old Dow Jones. So the Dow Jones closed today at $49,149.63. So we're still over 49,000, which is phenomenal. So if you have 401ks, I'm sure you're probably very happy with your 401k balances right now. So that's always good. So let's go through. So the Supreme Court has been very, very busy the last 2 days while I was supposed to be working and brokering deals. Even though I was multitasking, I had on my TV the Supreme Court hearing, and I was also on my laptop doing actual making money things. But anyway, the Supreme Court has been going over this this transgender in sports issue, and it's something that to me this is like a brainy, I feel like this is an elementary school issue, and I'm not real sure why this has become a national issue. And so let's go back in time at some of the biggest movements that we've had in our country. We went through women's rights. The women fought so hard for women's rights, and now it's being challenged. And to me, it looks like a regression of women's rights and women's and having a place for women. So I struggle with this one. Like I don't care if you're a transgender. If you want to be a transgender, tranny it all up. Some of the most entertaining things I've ever seen were transgenders doing shows or whatnot. It's their preference. However, there has to be a line. There can't just be a free for all. And it's just like with anything else. Like, you can't just do whatever you want. It's America, yeah, the land of opportunity, the land of the pursuit of happiness, but you can't take your happiness and stomp all over someone else's happiness. And that's where I think that we get twisted with some things, and I think that's where we're at with this whole transgender thing. But they're going back and forth on it. So to go over the story, so the Supreme Court spent more than 3 hours yesterday debating whether states can ban transgender girls and women from competing on female sports teams. And the conservative majority signaled strong support for allowing those bans to stand. The cases from Idaho and West Virginia would reshape Title IX and affect laws in more than half the country. So 2 laws are under review here. Idaho's Fairness in Women's Sports Act and West Virginia's 2021 transgender athlete ban. Both prohibit transgender girls and women from joining girls and women's sports teams in public schools and colleges. Rachel, I'm inclined to agree with you. I just think we're overcomplicating things, and this, we need to get back to the simplicity of man and woman. Just in the hearing yesterday and today, nobody could define what a woman even is. We're still at that point where we want to push for these transgender rights in sports, but yet we still have grown women, mind you, that can't identify what the definition of a woman is. And it's troubling. It's troubling that women during the women's rights times, they fought so hard for those rights just to come to today and regress in our evolution to where, well, now we can't identify what a woman is. What do you mean? We've already fought this battle. We know what a woman is. We know what their rights are. We know that they have opportunities to succeed in almost any workplace. Yes, there are still some hurdles to go over. However, women are in a very much better position than what they were 70 years ago. So to have this movement come in and stomp on that, I don't like it. Bonnie, I'm on the same page with you on that one. Do what you want with your body, but you can't. I just can't see. Look, if that's the case, I'm going to go back to college, and I'm going to identify as a woman, and I'm going to go wrestle because I'm pretty sure I probably have a bunch of eligibility to go back, even though I'm old. Even though I'm old, I could probably still win the national championship in wrestling as a woman. So that's where the conflict is. There's no, I guarantee you there's not going to be a woman that can beat me on a wrestling mat. And that's, I shouldn't be on a wrestling mat with a woman. You know what? Maybe the police department can get me a trophy for all this wrestling success that I've had. I would really like to have a nice crystal I'd like to have a nice crystal ball trophy. See if Bobby Day can do that for me. So the challenge is, so there's a lady named Lindsay Hecox, Hecox, Hecox. I kid you not. You can't make this up. She's from Idaho. And Becky Pepper Jackson, you can't make that up either. She's from West Virginia. And so they argue that this ban violates equal protection under the 14th Amendment. This is where they're kind of right, but at the same time, you can't say it's violating the 14th Amendment when it treads on someone else's constitutional rights. So that's where they're going to have to legally divide the issues and say, look, you have to stay over here and you have to stay over here. That way you can still get your rights, your 14th Amendment, and you can still have all your women's rights over here and not have to worry about people who are biologically not women coming over and treading on your rights. So I think that's what they're going to have to do. Title IX prohibits sex discrimination in education, so they're going to have to probably go in and reword Title IX. The federal courts have previously blocked both bans, so the Supreme Court took up the case. So I think that we're going to get a determination. It looks like it's going to be a 5-4 vote, if I had to guess from what I watched the last couple of days on that. It looks like majority is going to vote to uphold those bans. So conservative justices lean towards upholding the ban. Several justices emphasize biological sex as a legitimate basis for sports categories. Justice Kavanaugh noted the country is split. 27 states ban transgender participation and 23 allow it, and questioned why the court should intervene amid scientific uncertainty about hormone therapy and athletic performance. And for those of you haters out there, the city council did not provide me with any of this information. They did not email me, and I'm just reading off of their script. This is an outline that I make myself. I did it at like 6 o'clock this morning so I could be well prepared for my show today. The city council didn't give me anything. If you subpoena my bank accounts, nobody pays me I do not receive money from London, Kentucky, for the record. Admit that to the record. Anyway, so the conservative bloc appeared skeptical of arguments that the bans unlawfully discriminate, and that's going to be something that they're going to have to continue to discuss as to where the discrimination lies and how that's going to apply to the Constitution and the interpretation of the Constitution and where that evolution can go and where it already is. So there's some issues there they needed to talk out. The liberal justices pressed the states. They questioned whether blanket bans unfairly exclude transgender girls regardless of age, medical treatment, individual athletic ability. They raised concerns that the laws may erase transgender students from school sports entirely, contradicting Title IX's purpose. The states argued the bans protect fairness, which I think when it comes down to it, that's where the issue is going to be. Is it fair or is it not fair? I just don't believe that. I don't care how many estrogen pills you give to a man or how much testosterone you give to a woman, that they shouldn't. This is especially when it comes to a man trying to transition into a woman. Just because you're taking some hormones, it doesn't mean you don't have your muscle mass, the strength of things. It's just not fair. Idaho and West Virginia repeatedly framed the issue as preserving competitive equity for cisgender girls. I don't even know what that means. The attorneys misgendered the athletes during arguments, which drew attention from observers and LGBTQ advocates. The challenges argued the bans are overly broad, that lawyers for Hecox and Pepper Jackson, I don't know why that's funny. Many transgender girls do not retain male puberty advantages, especially those on blockers or hormones. The bans treat transgender girls worse than all other students, violating equal protection. That's what they're saying. Because they're more advanced than the average woman. It's very simple. A decision is expected by late June or early July in 2026. The ruling could uphold the state bans, allowing similar laws nationwide, or strike down bans as unconstitutional, or create a narrow standard for when transgender athletes may participate. I don't know how which one of these routes they're going to go, but it did seem like that the conservatives are probably going to win this argument. As to how it's going to come out, I'm not sure. Given the tone of the hearing, many legal analysts expect the court to side with the states, but nothing is final until the opinion is released. 27 states have transgender sports bans. The Supreme Court's ruling will determine whether those laws stand or fall. It could also redefine Title IX, which applies to transgender students for years to come, or which will apply to them. So that's that. I'm paying attention to it. I'm just interested to see how they argue the legality of it, and how they apply this to the Constitution, how they apply it to the 14th Amendment. So constitutional law is interesting to me. I'm kind of a nerd for that stuff. So the next item up for bids is so Kevin O'Leary. I was watching an interview that Kevin O'Leary, if you don't know who Kevin O'Leary is, he's one of the sharks from Shark Tank. And he's a very, very successful businessman. So he's proposing that Trump makes some adjustments on the tariffs. And I've been talking internationally with some of my international colleagues about this as well, because as everyone knows, we have increased tariffs in most countries, and 100% of those countries that Trump increased tariffs are countries that I do business with. So it has become a major hindrance on how I do international business and importing and exporting. So I stay on top of this situation. Monster. So Kevin O'Leary told News Nation that Trump's tariffs on Canada, which are 35%, and India, which is 50%, are too blunt and will need redefined soon. Now, I'm not that concerned about Canada because what's up, G bro? I heard y'all are getting snowed on. My people from Ohio showed me some pictures today. Y'all are getting hammered. Stay warm. But I don't do a lot of business with Canada, but I do a lot of business with India. So let me explain to you how I circumnavigate the tariffs. So before I would bring Indian goods to the United States. Now there's a tariff there. Same as when this whole thing first started, when I send goods to India, there is a tariff there. So there's a matter of who pays those tariffs. Now, when I calculate the shipping, I have to account for those tariffs in my pricing. So when India is at 50%, it almost makes the profit. It actually does. It makes the profit margin unattainable. You cannot make a profit on most goods coming from India into the United States. But their tariff on us is much lower, so they can actually take in stuff. So doing business with India has been a hindrance. I can't directly do business between the United States and India and make money. It's not going to happen. However, what I do is I have a customer in Australia. So my customer in Australia, my client in Australia, he can provide a lot of the same things I can. So what I do is third party the business from Australia who has very low tariffs on India. India has very low tariffs on Australia, and allow them to do business. And then I take my cut from that. So that's how that works. I just become a third party broker instead of being directly involved in the deal. So, but Kevin O'Leary, I believe, is right. I do think that we're at that time where we can make, even if it's a slight adjustment, even if Trump backs them off 10%, that's going to have a huge effect on our markets. We're going to have a huge positive effect on our markets. At 40% is still going to be too high for me to really do direct business with India. However, at 25%, Canada becomes more attainable. Even though I really don't do business with Canada, all that. I mean, I do have the ability to, I just don't. I don't really like Canada. I mean, I like Rob, who comes on the show sometimes. He's from Canada. I like Rob. But a lot of the Canadian, it's a pain in the ass doing business with Canada. So he predicted that fine tuning will be coming soon. And I do think that President Trump is going to ease some of the inflated tariffs that he has in place. I think he's proved his point. India's kind of behaved themselves since they got caught selling oil to Russia. So he emphasized that Canada is a major trading partner for 26 U.S. states. So overly aggressive tariff risk harming U.S. businesses as well as Canadian ones. I think we're going to see a balancing out there here within the year. So in a separate interview, O'Leary criticized the administration for inconsistent communication on tariffs, saying different officials were giving conflicting signals and that this has to get cleaned up. So China, they have even stronger tariffs. So while he wants adjustments for allies, O'Leary has argued that tariffs on China should be even higher, claiming that China doesn't follow trade rules and that stronger pressure is needed. So, like I said, I do business all over the world. So I keep in contact. I just talked to my Indian clients today, and so when I talked to them and I asked them, so what are you guys doing to since a lot of your business to the United States has kind of been put on hold because of the tariffs make everything unaffordable. And they said, well, we have no choice. We have to do business with China. So that's what they do. They've weakened their dependency on the United States and shifted it over to China. So when we have these geopolitical issues that happen, we do have to pay attention to, what is the effect of that? Now, India does not get along with China. They are right now because they don't have a choice. Now, as soon as the tariffs go down, India is going to be right back on board, and we're going to be looking at our $500 billion trade deal come back into play. So yeah, China's doing their thing. India's rebuilding their ties with China. That's a fact. After years of tension, partly because U.S. tariffs have strained the India-U.S. relations, India and China have resumed trade flows and direct flights and reopened dialogue on border issues. India is also maintaining strong ties with Russia, and that is an issue that we don't want. I don't really like the idea of India and Russia becoming too buddy. Even though I'm going to be doing things with Russian media. However, they have assured me that I will be allowed to express my American opinions and expertise without being ostracized. So that made me feel a little bit better. Although, should we trust the Russians? I don't know, but they have been very, very kind to me. But I don't want them doing business with India. There's a lot of money to be made in India, so I don't want them to get too buddy. India is diversifying. They're not replacing dependencies. They're less reliance on U.S. and as a predictable partner. They got this thing going on with China. China is also reducing reliance on U.S. markets. They're becoming more reliant on themselves, which their markets aren't very strong. I know China wants to throw it out there that their markets are very strong, but they really aren't. China doesn't do as good financially as what they want the world to think that they do. Navigating U.S. tariffs and sanctions. So the Middle East is directly affected by the tariff regime, especially the new 25% tariff on any country trading with Iran. So there's that sanction that's automatic. So countries that trade with Iran, which is India, China, and the Gulf states, must now weigh the cost of U.S. tariffs. This is pushing some states to reduce exposure to U.S. economic leverage or double down on U.S. alignment to avoid penalties. Rachel, what countries are they coming from? I'd be interested to know that. I do know that our tariff with Australia is 10%. So that they've become a more viable trade partner, at least in my sector. Freddie, if you understood the amount of things that I have done to help people, especially in the country of Kentucky or the state of Kentucky, I'm sorry, this wouldn't even be a question you would ask me, um, because the amount of criticism that I take for standing up and helping people is something that most people would cower, and I would do it all over again to keep people from being oppressed. Um, it's a it's a tough thing being in the journalism world. This is not an easy thing. You actually don't make a lot of money in journalism. This is why I don't do journalism full time. It's more of a part time hobby because you don't really make money in journalism. You take a beating all day long, and you don't really get paid for it. You don't get compensated for the abuse that you take in journalism. So I do it because I enjoy my craft. I do it because there are things in this world that people are not aware of, that our media, especially here in the United States, is so contorted that we're not being told the truth about anything, or if we are, we're only being told 30-second snippets of a 2-hour long conversation, and that to me is wrong. Which is why I dig so deep and explain as much as I can, because I want people to understand the full extent of what the story is, and not just a 30-second, well, breaking news today out of Washington, transgenders are going to be swimming with men or swimming with women, and move on to the next story. That's not how we should be retaining our news, because we're missing a lot of context. And so I always want to try to, I have people from all over the place. They get a hold of me. My friend Amon, who's in the movie industry, she's done so much stuff, Netflix, everything. She got a hold of me the other day, and she said, Eric, I know that you pay attention to everything. So I'm going to ask you this question about what is going on in Iran. So, I have to go into this big, long, ends up being an hour-long spiel, so that way I can make sure that she understands that this event happened, that led to this event, that led to this event, that led to this event. And so it's just a complete education, as opposed to the little snippets that we get on our major news outlets. I watch Fox News, Newsmax, CNN, MSNBC. I try to pay attention to all our news outlets, because we don't always get the full story. But if you pick a little bit out of each one, I can start to research some things and go, well, what's the full extent of this story, because they're saying this much information, but yet they cherry pick this much. So what is the full extent of the story? So there's a lot of reading that I do, more reading than I do probably anything, which I like it because it exercises my brain. Oh, well, thank you, Bonnie. I do what I can. So we're gonna wrap that one up. I got a lot more to get through. So real quick, this one isn't going to take too long. Just some developments in the situation in Iran. They're getting into kind of a pissing match, President Trump and the Ayatollah. So Donald Trump has repeatedly warned that the U.S. would take very strong action if Iran carries out hangings of anti-government protesters, according to multiple recent news reports. His remarks came as Iran signaled it may fast-track trials, executions, and detain demonstrators. Trump told CBS News that the U.S. will take very strong action, which he did. We did see that. That he did say that. So if they hang them, you're going to see some things. That's what Donald Trump was quoted as saying. On social media, he told Iranian protesters that help is on the way. He said the U.S. global goal regarding Iran is to win. And he says, I like winning. I like winning too. Um, now, what there is confusion with this. I just before I came on, I was watching an interview with the Iranian foreign minister, and he threw out this totally new scenario, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And so now I'm like, "What is going on? What is going on?" So these protests have apparently they started a while ago, long before Trump started doing stuff. And it was because their economy's falling. And so these recent events just escalated things. Now we're being reported to here in the United States that 12,000 people have been killed by the Ayatollah's regime. I don't know. I don't know. What's reported to us, who knows? But I don't doubt it. Now the foreign minister comes on and he says, "No, we don't have any beef with the United States. This was the terrorist groups that came in to try to start the fire." And then 10 minutes later, he goes, well, it was Mossad did it. Israel and Mossad did it. So I'm like, come on, man. At least if you're going to come on here and try to sell this story to the United States, at least get your story straight. Who's killing 12,000 people? Is it the terrorist groups that you fund, or is it the Israelis? As far as the footage I've seen, I don't really see any Israelis running around Iran. So I'm not real sure I'm buying that one. However, you don't know. You don't know for sure. I'm not in Iran. I don't see it, but apparently they were going to behead someone publicly. I don't know. It sounds like if they do start to do that, we may already be doing something over there, and we just don't know it. Pete Hegseth has been very good at what he does. So I don't know. We may be already over there. Who knows? So another story that I want to cover. I thought it was very interesting because especially talking with Kentucky and back where I'm from in Ohio and down here in Georgia where I live now, Freemasonry is a huge thing. Ohio actually has one of the largest populations of Freemasons in the United States. A lot of people don't know that. My grandfather was one. I am one. My brother is one. However, the everybody knows that there's this giant like secrecy behind it, which I've never seen it. It all looks like just donating money to Freemasonry retirement homes to me. But what do I know? I'm not a 33rd degree. I'm not high enough on the totem pole to know nothing about nothing. However, in England, they have specific rules for Freemasonry. And I know down in Kentucky, they blame everything on the Freemasons. I don't know if that's how it really goes, but you would not believe how many people get in my inbox and go, "You know what the Freemasons did this week?" I'm like, I don't know. What did they do? And maybe there's some truth behind some of the stories, but I don't know. I keep telling everybody, if you guys really want to find out, just go to their halls and sit out. Go to the Blue Lodges and sit out somewhere like in a bush and video record them. Freddie, Jason Early is innocent, 100%. I don't understand how the courts have allowed this to get that much out of control. But that's for another day. There's more information on that coming in. I'm just absolutely blown away as to how that's made it this far into the court system. But you're right. You can't blame everything on the Freemasons. Sometimes it's just bad people doing bad things. However, in England, this just recently happened. So there's no laws that prevent Freemasons from holding government jobs. And there's no United Kingdom wide restrictions stopping Freemasons from being in civil service or elected office. But some public bodies require the declaration of their membership as Freemasons because they're worried that that there will be conflicts of interest. And it must be so bad and has happened so much in the past. And obviously, the parliament is not going to come out and say, yep, we've got a Freemason problem in here, because they're going to save face. They don't want to look bad. But it does appear that it's bad enough to where you have to declare. If you don't declare, there are penalties for trying to hide your membership. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and leading into that. So in Ohio, there are reportedly 60,000 Freemasons in Ohio, which is my Blue Lodges in Ohio. It's one of the largest Masonic jurisdictions in the United States. Membership has been declining gradually over the past decade. Kentucky has approximately 30,000 members. Kentucky, although only has about 30,000 members, they have one of the highest per capita Mason populations, because we know Kentucky's not one of the most populated states. So to have 30,000 members, when you look at it per capita, there's a lot of, if you are walking down the street, you have a higher percentage of running into someone who's a Freemason in Kentucky. Their decline in the state is moderate but steady, similar to other southern jurisdictions. So in Georgia, here we have approximately 32 to 35,000 members. We are one of the strongest Masonic states in the Southeast. Every state's pretty much in a decline. People are not joining the lodges anymore. Now the reason why, and this is from my experience of seeing how they do lodges, and there's no real, I'm not revealing any like super secrets or anything. This is all stuff that is widely talked about, in public about Freemasonry. The problem that I see, like I said, we spend a lot of time donating to an organization that it's the Browning House, and it's in Maumee, Ohio, and it's basically a Freemasonry retirement like resort. It's really, really nice. I've seen it, but that's what we spend most of our time talking about it and figuring out how we can put more money there. And to me, when I first came in, it was in 2007. I was 25 years old. Like I said, my grandfather was a worshipful master of our lodge at one time in his life. He was buried in his garb. It's just a thing that I go there now as a young man, and I'm going, this is boring. Why am I doing this? And I think that is some of what is going on in Freemasonry. It's hard to recruit. Before, it was one of those things where you had to know somebody that knew your family, that like it was hard to get in, and you couldn't just go knock on the door and go, hey, can I be a Freemason? You had all these steps you had to follow. And it turned into a like all you got to do is basically send the lodge an email, and they'll send you one back, and now they'll invite you in, and somebody will say, yeah, man, I'll go ahead and stand by him while he goes through his rituals. And they've watered it down, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. They got to do something to attract the younger, to attract the younger men into Masonry. That's my opinion, but that's all I'm going to cover on the Freemasons. I found the story about England going through some stuff with the Freemasons, and I thought, well, I'll just dig up some facts about some of the states that I cover on my show and throw that out there. Maybe somebody learned something, maybe not. Education's always good. So the last thing that I'm going to talk about today so as I'm guessing a lot of you that on Amazon Prime, there's a docu-series called Hellier. And I've watched it several times because there's so much information in there that I miss a lot of stuff. So I just watch it over and over and over again until I remember everything. There's a certain part of the show Hellier. For those of you who don't know, Hellier is a little area in Pike County, Kentucky. And it's a county that I have gone through with a fine-tooth comb, have fought many battles in that system there, and have been attacked by them just as much. But Hellier is kind of in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, Hellier, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And it's a very, very good docuseries. Like I highly recommend, if you have Amazon Prime, go type it in your search, Hellier. There's 2 seasons. There's supposed to be a 3rd one, but the dudes who made it have in my opinion, they've disappeared. I don't know what happened to them. They were supposed to come and do a 3rd season and they never did. And now I can't. I even sent the guy, the head guy, I sent him an email and said, hey, I've got some questions about your work. And that email got returned. So I don't know what's going on with those guys. I don't know if they've just disappeared or if something happened where they're like, hey, we can't do this no more. We got to discontinue the project, because Amazon Prime did give them an extension on their docuseries. Like it was one of the hottest docuseries on Amazon. So I encourage you all to watch it. It's very, very interesting. There's a lot of very interesting things there about the history of the Appalachians with the occult issues. The Freemasons get brought up. Human trafficking gets brought up. Organ trafficking gets brought up. The corruption in Kentucky that Freddie just brought up is talked about there. These little gnome guys that are in the caves that people see, they're talked about. It just kind of covers everything. And it's very interesting. There's stuff in there that I did not know. And so go watch it. But one of the situations that I want to talk about, and ChatGPT advised me not to talk about it. So generally when a robot tells me to do something or not do something, I'm just going to do the opposite. So there is a part of the story of Hellier that they talk about. I believe it was season 2, episode 8, where they go to Somerset, Kentucky, which is Pulaski County. And ironically, I have a lot of history in Pulaski County. When I was a child, my aunt was married to a surgeon there. And so every summer we would go, me and my brother, we would go to Pulaski County, to Somerset. I still remember the road. It was Pump House Road. It was down the street, down the hillside from Summersport Park. And I remember everything about that town. We used to go want to eat at Taco Tico all the time. I'd never heard of Taco Tico until I went to Somerset, Kentucky. I don't even know if it's still there, but it was a little Mexican restaurant we always wanted to go to, and Mr. Gaddy's. And so this area is a huge has a huge place in my childhood. It's some of the happiest moments of my life took place in Somerset, Kentucky. And I learned a lot about a lot of things there. As a matter of fact, we couldn't even go outside the one year because there was a serial killer there beheading people. Ironically, 35 years later, I covered that case. So it's crazy. It's crazy how things come full circle. Yeah, London's pretty bad, Bonnie. Y'all, they do it right out in the open. There's no hiding it. They just run their organized crime syndicate right out in the open, right out in front of the FBI's office. It's crazy. So there was a woman interviewed in the series, and she claimed that she was abducted. And no, not the dungeon guy, Bonnie, not that one. That case still blows my mind. I don't understand. They made this, it's one of the biggest cases in America, and nobody really covered it, and it just poof disappeared. How do you have like a torture chamber and bones all over your property that you're already basically in witness protection for the feds? That whole case is so weird, and nobody will drop any dimes on it. I even have a cousin that works for the DEA, and I asked him about it. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, of course not. So this lady that was abducted from Somerset, she was taken out in the country to this house. Supposedly this house is a big old house, been there for a long time. There's an elevator in the house that takes you down into the ground and it'll lead you to the caverns. So supposedly something happened, and she was able to live. She got away. And she's been in and out of jail. She claims she's constantly harassed. And I actually know exactly where that house is at. I found it. And then I found, while I was investigating this, that there's 4 other people. I have tons of information on this situation where they didn't make it that far, I don't think, in the Hellier docuseries. But I picked it up and I figured it out. But she was taken to a rural location. The one lady I talked to named them. There were lots of people. The house is owned by a judge. Imagine that. 2 doctors from Danville. I can go on and on. I know exactly who participates in that little circle. They were taking their blood and looking for the right type of blood. If the blood didn't match, then they were taken to another trafficking way of doing things. Yes, Hellier. So, like I said, there's more than just one woman with this story to tell. I have found 4 of them. There's links that link to a certain rehab facility. And that rehab facility has since been sold. And I am not blood. It's the organs, but you have to have the right blood type for that organ. This one's in the situation I'm talking about is in Pulaski County. Apparently this has been going on for a long time. I don't know if a lot of you are paid too much attention to Pulaski County, but if you talk to people from Pulaski County, they will definitively tell you about their homeless population. Pulaski County does not have a very large population, but for some reason, they have a ton of homeless people there. That's behind the McDonald's over by the Walmart. So it's odd, and they'll tell you like it's different homeless people all the time. So my theory is that the rehab facility is moving people or having people moved to the hub, Pulaski County, Somerset, and then they're thrown in this encampment. And then when they're needed, when their time's up, they take them and they do what they do with them. And if you really think about it, the amount of missing people, especially missing women in the state of Kentucky overall, not just saying Eastern Kentucky, let's say the whole state period, you have an exponential amount of missing women in Kentucky. So is the theory that far off? Is it plausible? I don't know. I just notice things, and I interview people, and they tell me these stories, and I go, man, the first time I heard it, I was like, this is a little far-fetched. This is another Freemason conspiracy theory. Although these people are not blaming the Freemasons for this, they're blaming other people. But is this just another conspiracy theory? But then I kept hearing the similar stories. People could describe the house. People could describe the property. They could describe the people. They could describe the cars. They could describe all kinds of stuff. So I started to really look into this, and then I started finding other stories that don't have anything to do with that. Like a bus with bodies on it that was buried. I'm pretty sure I know where that's at. If you Google Earth it, there's almost like a perfect rectangle in the ground above where the person said that this bus is buried at. Yes, Freddie, yes. They're looking for that universal blood type so those organs can go anywhere. Which we shouldn't be surprised that these things happen. Is it weird that it happens in Kentucky? Maybe. But is it all that weird? I mean, could you get away with it in New York City? Probably not. There's too many forensics experts. There's too many people that are going to cause problems. Where in Kentucky, there's only a limited amount of people with the professional capabilities of putting together a case or putting all the puzzle pieces together. That's why they don't like people snooping around Kentucky. Because of all the amount, not only the corruption, but the amount of other weird shit that happens in Kentucky. The rehab facilities. The rehab facilities take everyone's blood. Think about that. They already know these people are handpicked. And Rachel, you're right. There's a lot of hiding spots. So if somebody gets out of line, there's a lot of really good places to hide a body. As we know, we covered it in Pike County. We're up to like 52 dead bodies in Pike County that the sheriff's office is like, just drug related. Who cares? But hopefully they get a new sheriff, so we don't have to worry about that no more. But I'm gonna be going back into Pulaski County, and I'm gonna dig all that up. I'm gonna go back through all my information. I'm gonna go find new information, and I'm gonna put this whole thing together. I think there's a lot more to be found. Yeah, who's the biggest pusher of the rehab facilities? Wonder who that is. Andy Bashir. But we'll find out. But that's my show for the day. I hope I've entertained everyone. And everyone, please be safe out there. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. I don't wish ill things to happen to anyone. I want everyone to live happy, healthy lives and do good things for your community. I'm out. Peace.